you've been waiting for permission, waiting for signs, support, or the right moment. But those who rise don't wait, they decide. They walk into storms with the belief that nothing can break them. That belief becomes power. It builds momentum. Acting as if nothing stops you doesn't mean you never fall. It means you never fold. The shift begins when you stop looking for certainty and start moving like it's already yours. In a few moments, I will teach you how to act with boldness, move with certainty, and break through every obstacle. You are more powerful than you act. You walk through life as if your hands are tied, but have you ever truly tested your own strength? Not the kind that bends iron or lifts stone, but the strength to persist when others quit, to hold your vision when others scoff, to keep walking forward when the world closes in. Most men are imprisoned not by iron bars, but by invisible walls they built from doubt, fear, and memory. Why do so many act powerless when they're not? Because they've mistaken obstacles for barriers. They've confused discomfort for danger, and they've believed, wrongly, that failure defines a man instead of refining him. But here's a secret. Your limits were not born with you. You picked them up like dust by listening to those who stopped believing in themselves. The truth is simple. You can rise. You can act. You can move forward as if nothing stops you, because in reality, nothing can unless you give it permission. So how do you begin to tap this power? Start by refusing to speak limitation over your life. Replace every I can't with I'm learning. Speak boldly to yourself. Act deliberately. Walk as if the outcome is already yours. When your steps are firm, doubt has no place to settle. Picture this. Imagine you are standing at the foot of a great mountain. Most turn back at the base, seeing only the steep cliffs. But you take one step, then another, telling yourself with each stride, this path is mine. And suddenly, the summit no longer feels distant, it feels inevitable. So let me ask you, have you been walking through life like a guest in your own home? Or will you begin to act as the master of your fate, moving forward with certainty, not hesitation? The way you carry yourself shapes what you attract. Have you ever noticed how people are drawn to those who walk with certainty? There's a silent force in the way you enter a room, the way you hold your shoulders, the way you respond when pressure rises. It's not magic, it's not luck. It's posture. It's belief expressed in behavior. You can create outcomes by the way you carry yourself. Why does this matter? Because the world is not searching for another timid soul. It's looking for someone who acts with quiet conviction, someone who knows what they stand for and makes others feel safer simply by staying. When you act small, life shrinks to match you. But when you act bold, opportunities appear that once seemed hidden. What is this force that changes things before you speak? It's the discipline of presence. The refusal to flinch, the willingness to stand tall even when your knees are shaking. To build this, begin with one habit. Rise each morning and decide, I will walk, speak, and act today as if I belong at the table of kings. Then live into that decision. Do not wait for permission. Do not seek approval. Decide who you are and act accordingly. Picture this. You enter a meeting, not as someone seeking validation, but as someone bringing value. You sit. You listen, you speak only when it matters, and without saying much, your energy commands attention, not because of who you've been, but because of how you now carry yourself. So I ask you, are you shrinking in the presence of life, or will you expand into it, shoulders square, eyes forward, acting as if nothing, absolutely nothing, can move you off your path? You become what you persist through. Greatness is not handed to men, it is hammered into them, forged in fire, shaped by struggle. And that is why most will never touch it. They seek ease. But you must train yourself to do hard things again and again until difficulty becomes your default and struggle becomes your strength. Why is persistence so rare? Because the man who persists must suffer in silence while others feast on distraction. He must keep digging when the gold is still buried. He must keep walking while others sit and point fingers. But this is the secret. The one who keeps going becomes the one who stands alone at the top. What does it mean to act as if nothing stops you? It means to see resistance as a friend, not a foe. It means to laugh at failure, nod at delay, and keep building with faith while others doubt. How do you do this practically? Create rituals, not routines. Wake before the world does. Begin each day by reminding yourself, I move forward no matter what. And when pain shows up, don't retreat. Tighten your grip. That's how persistence is formed, not in one grand gesture, but in 1,000 silent choices. Picture this. You're planting seeds in dry soil, no sign of life for days. Weeks, the neighbors mock you. Even your own thoughts whisper, give up, but you keep watering. Keep showing up. And one morning, when no one's watching, it sprouts. Your effort breaks through. Now tell me, will you let the silence stop you, or will you persist until the silence breaks and your success shouts? Your mind is a kingdom. Guard it fiercely. Every battle you face out there starts in here, in the mind. Before a man is defeated in life, he is defeated in thought. And before he wins in life, he wins in thought. The mind is not a weak candle flickering in the dark. It is the sun if you learn to command it. Why do men lose their way? Because they allow doubt to rent space in their mind. They let fear deliver monologues. They treat every thought as truth, but not all thoughts deserve your attention. Not all voices are yours. So what must you do? You must stand at the gate of your mind like a soldier. You must challenge every thought that weakens you, every idea that makes you smaller, every memory that chains you to the past. Replace them with truth, with power, really with visions of who you're becoming. Here's how you begin. Write down what you believe. Speak it aloud each morning. Let no day pass where you don't remind your mind that you are in charge. Your thoughts do not own you. You own them. Picture this. Imagine you're walking through a crowded market. Shouts, chaos, noise. That is the untrained mind. But then you build a wall. You hang a sign. No entry without purpose. Now the noise stays outside. Inside, clarity, focus, peace. Let me ask you, are you ruling your thoughts, or have you allowed every wandering fear to sit on your throne? Every step forward is a vote for your future. Each decision you make is not just a choice, it's a whisper to your destiny, shaping who you are becoming, brick by invisible brick. You may think the turning points in your life will come in loud, dramatic moments, but the truth is quieter. It's not the grand gestures or sudden breakthroughs that forge your future. It's the repeated steps, taken in silence, often unnoticed, that slowly sculpt the man you were meant to become. When you act as if nothing can stop you, it doesn't mean the path is clear or resistance is absent. It means you've placed your future above your comfort. It means you've made a vow that no matter what stands in your way, doubt, fatigue, failure, you will keep moving. Most men stay the same, not because they lack dreams, but because they underestimate the force of small, repeated action. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait to feel ready, strong, inspired. But transformation doesn't come from waiting. It comes from motion, from doing something, anything, that aligns with who you wish to become. That's the real secret. Progress does not demand a heroic leap. It only asks that you take the next honest step. Then take it again and again, with faith, with discipline, with belief that the man you are building is worth the repetition. So where must your focus lie? On momentum, not speed. On discipline, not drama. On repetition, not reward. One decision repeated with intention becomes a habit. That habit, lived out daily, becomes part of your character. And character, that is the substance from which your future is carved. Life does not respond to wishes. It responds to who you consistently are. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, but every single day. What do you do when you feel numb? When the fire's gone? You move anyway. You get up anyway. You remind yourself that motion is meaning. You remind yourself that each act is a statement. This is who I am. You become your own proof, and you cast a vote for the man you are becoming, not through words, but through your walk. Now picture this. A man, quiet and consistent, lays a single brick each morning. Others mock. They don't see the vision. They laugh at the slowness, the simplicity. But he does not flinch. He keeps building, a brick, a brick, a brick. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and one day he steps back, and before him stands a fortress, impenetrable, undeniable, built not by bursts of effort, but by the steady hand of resolve. So I ask you, what are you voting for with your actions? Are your days a reflection of the man you say you are? Or are you betraying your own future through hesitation and excuse? Maybe it's time to cast a new vote. Not by speaking louder, but by acting stronger, with your pace, with your presence, with your steps. Let your life become the declaration. Let your daily discipline become the proof. The man who moves without waiting wins. You wait. You tell yourself you're just being wise, waiting for the right time. for that clear signal, for the cheerleaders to show up, for certainty to strike like lightning. But let's face the truth that most men avoid. The right time doesn't arrive. It's not found, it's forged. The man who succeeds isn't the one who discovers the perfect moment, he's the one who creates it through movement. Most men, in fact, never even begin, not because they're incapable, not because they lack strength, but because they've convinced themselves they can't start without applause, without a guarantee, without everything lined up and blessed by fate. They wait their lives away, mistaking hesitation for preparation. Why do people delay action so long? Because they believe readiness is something they'll feel, as if one day they'll wake up with no doubt, no fear, just overflowing certainty. But readiness isn't a mood. It's not a blessing. It's a decision. You decide to move. You choose to start. Confidence isn't something you're handed. It's something you build, one action at a time. The courage you want doesn't precede movement, it grows through it. You don't become fearless and then act, you act while still afraid. And over time, the fear fades, not because it's gone, but because you've grown. The man who acts, even imperfectly, is already ahead. While others are analyzing, hesitating, second-guessing, he's gaining ground. While they draft plans, he lays bricks. While they wait for more information, he creates results. The world honors those who move, not those who muse. And you must train yourself to become one of them. That's the difference between the one who watches and the one who wins. So how do you become this man of action? You burn your escape routes. You remove maybe from your language. You declare your direction each morning with finality. Today I go. Today I grow. Today I take the next bold step. Don't wait to feel ready. That feeling rarely comes on its own. But action is a generator. It sparks clarity. It fuels momentum. The fog lifts after you walk through it, not before. Now picture this. Two men stand before a storm. One scans the sky, reading signs, looking for patterns. He writes, he wonders, he waits. The other adjusts his coat, steadies his breath, and starts walking. One man has knowledge, the other gains distance. When the storm fades and the sun returns, it's not the thinker who has traveled, it's the mover. So let me ask you directly, what exactly are you still waiting for? Are you expecting someone to tell you it's time, to hand you perfection? Newsflash, they never will. Life offers no permission slips, no flawless conditions, only the step right in front of you, that one real opportunity to move. So will you take it, or will you keep circling the same decision day after day as time slips quietly through your fingers? Speak as if your words shape the world. Your words are not just sounds, they are seeds. And whether you realize it or not, your life is the harvest. Everything you speak to yourself, about yourself, and around others shapes the soil of your reality. Speak small, and your world will shrink to fit your sentences. Speak with conviction, power, and vision, and you will awaken forces within you that have long laid dormant. You will rouse strength you didn't know you had. This isn't motivational fluff. It's the invisible law most ignore. What you speak is not separate from what you become. In time, they merge. Your words build the house you live in, yet most men speak weakness over their lives. Not because they are broken, but because they've been taught that their words are casual, that their speech is just noise. But the truth, the tongue is a weapon, a builder, a compass. It points you toward your future or locks you in your past. Say, I can't often enough, and the world will echo it back until it becomes a cage. Say, I will enough times, and you begin to walk through walls that once looked like permanent barriers. The difference between power and pity is often found in the sentence a man repeats every morning. So what should you say? Speak as if your voice is the signal your spirit has been waiting for. Speak like a general issuing orders to his army. Your life is not just happening, it is responding to your language, your rhythm, your repetition. Talk about where you're going, not where you've been stuck. Talk about solutions, not just your struggles. Speak as if your destiny is listening, because it is. Every sentence is either calling you forward or chaining you to the same place. If you want to shift your entire direction, begin with how you speak in the first 10 minutes of your day, before the world gets loud, before the doubts arrive. Speak your vision, not to impress anyone, not to feel good, but to remind your own soul who's in charge. These are not affirmations for the mirror. These are declarations for war. You are not pretending. You are proclaiming, reminding yourself of what you've chosen to believe. Tell yourself, I don't shrink. I solve. I rise. I move. And then act like it. And never, never speak defeat in the middle of your battle. Don't curse your efforts while you're still climbing. Don't speak of giving up when your breakthrough may be one action away. Your words must carry you, not drag you back into the pit, especially when you're tired, especially when the outcome is still hidden. That is when your voice must become your anchor. Picture this. Two men walk into a job interview. Same education, same skill set. One mutters, "I hope I'm good enough." The other says with quiet certainty, "I bring value. I solve problems." Who gets the offer? Not the man with the better resume, the man with the bolder belief. The man who used his voice not to beg, but to build. So let me ask you, what have you been saying lately? Are your words shaping a future you're proud of? Or are you muttering your limitations like a lullaby, putting your potential to sleep with every passive phrase? Your future is listening, your mind is listening, and your spirit responds to what your mouth repeats. Speak with strength, speak with direction. Speak like a man who knows his words are laying the foundation of his next level, because they are. Your reputation begins with private discipline. You want respect? Don't start by seeking it in the eyes of others. That's the end, not the beginning. True respect is born in silence, in the hours when no one's watching, in the dark mornings when the world sleeps, and you rise, not for praise, not for validation, but because you made a vow to yourself. The man who commands admiration in public is the one who has already won 1,000 unseen battles in private. The way you train, the way you think, the way you speak to yourself when there is no applause, that is what shapes the man others will one day admire. And if you cut corners in private, don't be surprised when the world sees through the illusion. You cannot fool your future. It remembers what you do when no one is watching. It sees your habits, and it pays you accordingly. Why do most people demand reward without discipline? Because they've been trained to chase applause instead of mastery. They want the trophy without the training, the respect without the responsibility. They believe image is more important than integrity. But you must not be like them. You must become a man of depth, a man who builds in silence what others only pretend to possess. Be the man who works while others boast, who keeps the promises he makes to himself, especially when no one else is there to witness. That's where true power is born, not in spotlight, but in solitude. So what should you do with this truth? You build a life that impresses you first, not your neighbor, not your boss, you. Start by mastering the morning. Wake early, not because it's trendy, but because it's a statement, a declaration that you own your time. Plan your day before it steals itself from you. Keep your space in order, your room, your desk, your thoughts, clean space, clean mind. Honor your word, even in the smallest of matters. These are not small acts. These are declarations of who you are. And these tiny disciplines, repeated day after day, create a presence that others can feel the moment you walk into a room. That's how reputation is built, not from dramatic gestures, but from quiet excellence that becomes your normal. How do you develop this kind of strength? You stop making your actions dependent on your feelings. You set standards that do not waver. You create non-negotiables, lines that you will not cross, routines you will not break, not because someone is watching, but because you are. You say, I do this no matter how I feel. That is the beginning of mastery. That is the birth of trust in yourself. And remember this, discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is proof that you value your potential enough to act on it, even when it's hard. Picture this. A man walks past a mirror. He doesn't flex, he doesn't pose. He nods, not out of vanity, but out of recognition. He knows himself. He trusts himself because he remembers what he did when no one was watching. The early mornings, the workouts, the journals, the times he showed up when it would have been easier to quit. That nod, it's rare and it's powerful. It is the quiet confidence of a man who has nothing to prove because he has receipts. He doesn't need permission to believe in himself. He's earned it. Now reflect. Do you admire yourself behind closed doors when it's just you and your thoughts? Are you proud of the man you see? Or are you putting on a show for the world while crumbling inside? Your answer will tell you more about your life than any praise or title ever could. You cannot demand respect from others until you give it to yourself first. And that respect, it is earned in silence, in sacrifice, in the sacred, unseen work Because in the end, it is not your charm, your clothes, or your charisma that will make your name matter. It is your consistency, your integrity, your invisible victories. Those are the bricks that build a reputation strong enough to carry weight. So choose wisely what you do when no one's watching, because that is where the foundation of a powerful life is laid. Confidence is earned by keeping your word. You want to walk boldly through life? You want to act like nothing can stop you? Then there is one place you must begin. Keep your word to yourself. Not once, not sometimes, every time, especially when no one is watching, especially when it's hard. Because the man who cannot keep promises to himself cannot build self-respect. And without self-respect, no title, no position, no applause will mean anything. You might gain the world's praise for a moment, but your own reflection will always know the truth. And if you don't believe in you, that crown you're chasing will fall from your head the first time the winds of doubt blow. Self-respect is not a luxury, it's your armor. Why do so many men struggle with confidence? Because they believe it's something you're born with, that some men just have it. But confidence is not gifted, it is forged. It is a reward you earn when your actions match your intent. Every time you say, "I'll do it," and you actually do, you're engraving trust into your nervous system. You're sending proof to your brain that your word is law, and that law becomes your backbone. That is how men rise, not by noise, not by pretending, but by doing, quietly, repeatedly. And what happens when your words and actions finally align? Something rare. You begin to trust yourself. You stop second-guessing. You stop over-explaining. You move through life with a kind of quiet strength. Not arrogance, but assurance. It's in the way you walk, the way you enter a room, the way you speak. You don't announce what you'll do. You don't need to. You've made a habit of proving it, and that speaks volumes. People feel it, and slowly the world starts to trust you too, not because you demanded respect, but because you demonstrated integrity. So how do you begin building this kind of unshakable confidence? Don't start by trying to conquer the mountain. Start with one step, one promise. Make one simple commitment to yourself each morning. I'll wake up at this time, I'll read these pages, I'll complete this task, and then keep it. Not because you feel like it, because you said you would. Let that promise matter more than your mood. Then tomorrow, add another, then another. Slowly your day becomes a series of small victories, and those victories stack. Speak them aloud. Let yourself hear your own progress, not to brag, to build. You are training your mind to believe in you. Picture this. A man wakes up before the sun. He says, "I will rise early," and he does. He says, "I will exercise," and he does. He says, "I will not complain today," and he holds his tongue. These are not grand gestures, but each kept promise becomes a brick. And those bricks, over time, become a fortress, a structure he can stand on. When others ask, "Where does your confidence come from?" he doesn't need to answer. He just nods, because he knows he built it with discipline, with relentless honesty. But if you're breaking silent agreements with yourself, if you say tomorrow and it becomes next week, if you say just once and it becomes a habit, if you make promises you already know you won't keep, then you are training yourself to distrust your own voice. And that is why you hesitate. That is why you feel stuck. It's not the world, it's the fracture between what you say and what you do. That's where insecurity is born. And the only way to heal that is not with inspiration, but integrity. So let me ask you this. Can you trust you? Strip away the noise. Forget the mask you wear in public. When it's just you, no audience, no pressure, are you a man of your word? Or are you still breaking the most important contract in your life? The one you made with yourself. Because here's the truth most never tell you. Confidence doesn't begin in your posture. It begins in your promises. The ones no one else hears. The ones that shape your soul. Decide today to make those promises sacred. To raise the standard of what your word means. You don't need to start loud. Just start real. Build trust with yourself, one act at a time. And when you do, you'll walk taller, speak clearer, stand firmer. Because nothing moves a man who trusts himself. That is where unshakable confidence lives. Not in your voice, but in your follow-through. And once you have that, you won't need to act like nothing can stop you. You'll know nothing can. Walk with purpose, even before you know the path. You don't need to see every step. That's not how the journey works. You simply need to take the next one. With purpose, with conviction, with a sense that even though the entire path is not revealed, you are moving in the right direction. The man who walks in circles, second-guessing every move, endlessly analyzing, waiting for a sign, waiting for the fog to lift, never gets far. He mistakes hesitation for wisdom, but time passes anyway, and his indecision becomes its own decision. But the man who walks with direction, who steps forward into uncertainty with resolve, he begins to stir something greater. He may not know where the trail leads, but each step carves it into existence. He moves mountains, not because he sees the peak, but because he refuses to stop walking. Why do so many hesitate? Because the unknown terrifies them, because they've been told that certainty is safety, that you must have every answer before you act, that the road must be laid out in full, lit from end to end. But that's not how life rewards you. That's not how purpose is discovered. No man has ever seen the entire path before he began the climb. No legend was born with a perfect map. Purpose is not waiting at the summit, calling your name. It is forged in the ascent, in the struggle, in the steps taken without applause, without clarity, without approval. And the longer you wait for everything to align, the further you drift from the life that could have been yours. So what should you do when the way is unclear? Choose. Choose a direction. Pick a mission, not in desperation, but in discipline. You do not move with panic. You move with poise, not with fear, but with fierce intention. You don't chase 10 things. You commit to one. You plant your flag, and you walk. And as you walk, something strange begins to happen. The path begins to reveal itself. Doors open that you didn't see before. People appear who weren't there at the start. The ground beneath you strengthens with each step. But none of it happens unless you begin. And when doubt creeps in, as it always does, don't seek comfort in results. Anchor yourself in values. Ask yourself, what kind of man do I want to become? That question will serve you more than any plan ever could. Because when you know the man you are building, you don't need the world to reassure you. You have a compass that doesn't depend on conditions. It doesn't matter if it's sunny or storming, if the crowd is cheering or silent, you keep moving. And every step you take in alignment with your values is a brick in the foundation of your future. You don't need speed, you need direction. A man moving slowly toward a worthy mission is miles ahead of the man running in circles with no clarity. Don't confuse motion with meaning. The question is not how fast am I going, but am I headed somewhere that matters? Picture this. 2 travelers stand at the edge of a vast landscape. One waits. He needs the perfect map. He wants certainty. He refuses to begin until every detail is known. The other looks to the stars. He trusts his principles. He knows where he wants to go, not the exact route, but the direction. So he steps forward. He meets allies. He adapts. He discovers hidden roads. The terrain shifts, but so does he. He grows because he moves. And the other? He's still at the beginning, still sharpening his pencil, still waiting, still stuck. Now ask yourself, are you walking or just thinking about walking? Are you in motion or are you just planning to be? You don't need to have it all figured out. No one does, and if they say they do, they're lying. Life doesn't reward the most prepared. It rewards the most committed. You earn your wisdom by walking through the fog. You find your strength in uncertainty. You uncover the path by taking steps, not by standing still. So trust your feet. Trust your effort. Trust that the man who keeps moving, even when he's unsure, is the man who eventually arrives, because he learns, because he endures, because he acts. You don't need to know every turn. You don't need the full map. You just need the courage to begin. One step, then another, and another. That's how paths are made. That's how lives are built. That's how greatness is earned. So will you walk forward, even when the road isn't clear, or will you stand still, waiting for a certainty that never comes? The next step is waiting, and it's yours to take. Stop explaining yourself. Let results speak. The man who constantly explains himself reveals more than just his words. He reveals his uncertainty. When every move you make is followed by justification, when every decision must be padded with disclaimers and defended from imaginary critics, you're not living from a place of conviction. You are negotiating with your own doubt. But the man who moves in alignment with his purpose does not require applause or approval. He moves because it is time to move. He acts because he knows what must be done. The world may not understand him, may even question or mock him, but he does not shrink because he is not here to convince the crowd. He is here to build. Why, then, do so many feel the need to explain themselves? Why the endless disclaimers, the hesitations, the justifications? It is not always weakness, but it is often misplaced energy. At the root, it's a hunger for validation, a desire to be seen, to be understood, to be affirmed, especially by those who have no stake in your future. But here's the harsh truth. If you're always adjusting your course based on outside opinions, then your mission is no longer your own. You've handed the wheel to people who are not on your journey. You've given them authority they didn't earn. And now they shape your path without ever taking a single step beside you. Let this be your reminder. Your life is not a group project. Your calling is not a committee decision. The people who question your path don't carry your burdens. They don't wake up with your worries or stay up with your dreams. They don't know the prayers you've whispered, the sacrifices you've made, or the battles you've fought in silence. So why should their doubts define your direction? You must learn this truth early. The more you try to explain your way into approval, the more you dilute your own power. You begin to bend, to shrink, to soften your voice until it's no longer your own. And once you start tailoring your truth to please the crowd, you lose the clarity that was meant to carry you forward. Conviction becomes compromise. Vision becomes vague. But it doesn't have to be this way. How do you break this habit? You start by believing deeply in your own decisions. You act with clarity, not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. You trust the preparation behind your step. You trust the wisdom behind your silence. If you've thought deeply, reflected honestly, prayed sincerely, then move and let that movement be your statement. You don't owe the world a speech. You owe it your transformation. Let your life explain what your words never could. Let your results settle the debate. Imagine a man who rises before dawn. He doesn't make announcements. He doesn't post his intentions. He doesn't explain why he's training, why he's studying, why he's building. He just does it. His neighbors notice the change, but they don't understand. They laugh. What are you doing all this for? He hears them. He smiles, but he says little. Why should he speak when his future is speaking louder with every action? Days pass, then months. While they are still watching, still guessing, still critiquing, he is thriving. His home grows warmer, his body stronger, his presence more commanding. And slowly the laughter fades. The questions change. They stop mocking. They start asking. And not out of ridicule, but respect. That is the power of a man who stops explaining and starts embodying. When you live in alignment with your values, when your choices are guided by purpose, when your daily actions are rooted in vision, you no longer need to be understood. You need only to continue. Respect will follow, not always instantly, but inevitably. Because nothing speaks louder than consistency. So now the question turns to you. Are you trying to explain your way to respect, hoping that if you talk long enough, others will finally approve? Or are you building a life so solid, so undeniably disciplined that no explanation is ever needed? One path leaves you drained, constantly performing, constantly defending. The other leaves you empowered, because your life becomes your message. Your strength becomes your language, and your silence becomes the loudest proof that you are not living for permission. Speak less, move more, let the results rise in your defense. Let the transformation do the talking, because in the end, the world does not remember what you said you would do, it remembers what you did. Success favors the man who acts calm under fire. The storm doesn't destroy a man, it reveals him. It strips away illusion, comfort, and control. It tests the very structure of who he is beneath the surface. And here's the truth. Most people don't fall because of the storm itself. They fall because of how they react to it. Panic is what breaks them. Fear is what drives them off course. But the man who remains calm, he becomes something different. He doesn't just survive the storm, he commands it. While others run, shout, or shut down, he stands still, grounded, centered, like the eye of the storm, because he knows something they don't, that the man who holds his ground owns it. Why is calm so powerful? Because pressure is the great separator. It divides the men who rehearse strength from those who possess it. It exposes who is real and who is merely performing. When everything is smooth, everyone looks composed. Everyone talks big. But when the temperature rises, when things go sideways, only the prepared endure. Only the man who has trained for intensity can stand in it without shaking. Calm, then, becomes more than a mood. It becomes evidence. Proof that your character is not rented but owned. And in those moments, people look to the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't add noise but brings order. You must understand something many never will. Calm is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not surrender. Calm is control. It is strength, filtered through discipline. It is the outcome of a man who has decided that his emotions will not command him, he will command them. He doesn't allow panic to rise just because the world is shaking. He doesn't let anger lash out just because it's easy. He understands that real power is not in how loud you can get, but in how stable you can remain. So how do you build this kind of calm in a world addicted to chaos? You prepare. Not just physically, but mentally. You rehearse in your mind the battles before they arrive. You practice silence in the small things so you can command stillness in the big ones. You learn to pause before you speak, to breathe before you act, and to observe before you react. You train yourself to remain the same when everything else changes. That doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've mastered the art of response over reaction. You learn to spot the warning signs in yourself, the tightening jaw, the racing mind, the clenched fist. And instead of letting them drive you, you slow them down. You turn inward and remind yourself, I will not give this moment my peace. That's discipline. That's training. That's strength. Because anyone can be calm when it's easy. But to be calm when it's not, that is what separates a man of power from a man of noise. Picture this. You're part of a team. A crisis erupts. Everyone is shouting. People are blaming each other, scrambling for answers, throwing fuel on the fire. Chaos rises. Emotions spike. But you stay quiet. You don't speak to be heard. You speak to bring direction. You breathe. You watch. You think. And then, at the right moment, you speak. Clear, steady, intentional. And the room shifts. The noise drops. Eyes turn toward you, not because you overpowered them, but because you were the only one not overpowered by emotion. That's what calm leadership looks like. That's what command feels like. Not thunder, but grounding. And here's what happens next. People begin to trust you, not just in the moment, but beyond it. They remember how you acted when it mattered most. They remember your stillness, your composure, your clarity. And that becomes your identity. You become the one others lean on when the pressure rises. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are unshaken in the search for them. So ask yourself now, honestly, are you training your calm like a muscle? Are you practicing peace when it's quiet so you can carry it when it's loud? Or do you let your emotions hijack your power at the first sign of resistance? Do you throw your strength away the moment something doesn't go your way? Because life will not ask you if you're ready before it tests you. The storm will not knock politely. It will slam your door open and expect a response. And in that moment, your preparation, or lack of it, will be exposed. Let your calm be your weapon. Let your stillness be your strength. Let your presence be the anchor that holds firm when everything else sways. The man who keeps his peace under pressure owns more than the moment. He owns himself. And once a man owns himself, there is nothing that can truly shake him. Be the man others count on, not the one who crumbles. There's a rare kind of man whose very presence brings steadiness. He walks into the room and something shifts. Not because he's louder than the rest, not because he demands attention, but because he's anchored, grounded, dependable. When things go wrong, when chaos breaks loose, when tempers flare, when plans collapse, people look to him, not because he has all the answers. Often he doesn't. But what makes him different is this: he never runs. He shows up. He stays calm. He becomes the foundation others lean on when their own legs start to shake. And that kind of presence isn't built in comfort. It's built in fire. Why do most men avoid this kind of responsibility? Because being dependable means carrying weight. It means letting others lean on you when they can't stand on their own. And that terrifies them. They fear pressure. They fear being the one everyone turns to in moments of crisis. Because in those moments, there's no hiding, no room for excuses. You're either solid or you're not. But what they fail to see is that pressure is not the enemy, it is the forge. It is the heat that tempers steel, the resistance that reveals strength. The very thing they avoid is the very thing that could build them into someone worth following. You don't need to be perfect to be reliable. You don't need to have all the skills or the flawless plan. You just need to show up, especially when it's inconvenient. You need to keep your word when it would be easier to break it. You need to carry out the task when no one's applauding, no one's thanking you, and no one's watching. And over time, that simple act, consistency, becomes something far more powerful. It becomes respect. And respect is not flashy, it's not quick, but it lasts longer than charisma, and it reaches deeper than charm. A man who's consistent becomes someone others feel safe around, not because he protects them from everything, but because they know he'll be there through anything. That's how leadership is born, not through declarations or authority, but through reliability, through a proven history of showing up, standing firm, and doing what needs to be done, without complaint, without show, and without needing to be celebrated. So how do you become that kind of man? You start small. You make a promise to someone and you keep it. You say you'll help and you follow through. You commit to a goal, and even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one would notice if you backed out, you don't. You develop a habit of showing up when others fade. And when things get hard, because they will, you don't disappear. You double down. That's how you build a foundation, not just for yourself, but for the people who will one day need to lean on you. Imagine this. There's a family crisis. Emotions are high. Things are falling apart. One man panics. He lashes out, makes excuses, points fingers, says it's not his fault. Another man steps forward, quietly, calmly. "I've got it," he says. No drama, no spotlight. He handles the logistics. He communicates what's needed. He helps people breathe. He finds the next step and takes it. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. He becomes the calm in the storm, the rock in the flood. And in the years that follow, people may not remember every word he said, but they remember how he made them feel. Safe, steady, seen. That's the man people remember. The man who made chaos feel a little less chaotic, who didn't flinch under pressure, who didn't vanish when things got heavy. He didn't need applause. He didn't need to announce his role. He just did the job. So now the question is this: who are you when it counts? Are you the one people count on, or the one they hope doesn't get involved? Do people breathe easier when you show up or brace themselves? Because your legacy won't be built in the good times. It will be shaped in the hard ones. And it won't be measured by how many people cheered for you, but by how many could lean on you when it mattered most. This isn't about being the hero. It's about being present, reliable, grounded. Being the man others know won't disappear when the weight gets heavy. That's the kind of strength that builds families. That carries teams. That changes legacies. So step into it. Don't run from responsibility. Rise to it. Let pressure shape you, not shatter you. And build a reputation that doesn't need defending, because it's built on proof. Be the man who stays, the man who steadies, the man they can count on always. Cut off the escape routes. Commit fully. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They don't fall short because they weren't smart enough or capable enough. They fail because they leave the back door open. They plant their feet in two worlds: the world they want and the world they know. One step forward, one step in retreat. They build an escape plan before they've even begun. If this doesn't work, I can always fall back on that. As I get tired, I'll just pivot. If it gets too hard, I'll leave. And so they never give their full weight to the mission, never their full heart, never their full force. They keep a piece of themselves in reserve. And that piece, the part that refuses to commit, is what eventually costs them everything. To win at anything meaningful, you must burn the bridge behind you. You must act as if turning back is not an option. Because until that moment, your effort will always be divided. You'll hesitate, you'll compromise, you'll soften when it gets hard. But once you say, "This is it, I will make it work, or I will be made by the process," something shifts. You stop bargaining, you stop stalling, you stop asking for permission, and you start becoming. Commitment is rare for one reason: it's uncomfortable, it's terrifying. It strips you of the illusion of safety. It removes the parachute, cuts off the exit, and demands that you stand and fight. That's why most people never taste true transformation. They flirt with change, but they never marry it. They visit discipline, but they never move in, because deep down, they're still holding on to the hope that there's an easier way, a shortcut, a softer road. But power, real power, arrives when you make the hard choice. When you tell yourself, "I'm all in. No maybe, no half effort, just decision." And the moment you do that, the world begins to respond, because life has a strange way of moving in the direction of conviction. Doors begin to open, resources begin to gather, people begin to notice, not because your talent changed overnight, but because you did. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot build a legacy while constantly checking the exit. The man who moves with power is the man who has decided there is no plan B, not because he's reckless, but because he knows success demands everything: his time, his energy, his focus, and above all, his trust in the path he chose, in the man he's becoming, in the fire that will shape him. So how do you reach this point? First, you must get clear on your goal. Not vague, not wishful, clear. What are you building? Who are you becoming? Then you must strip away everything that competes with it: the distractions, the detours, the backup plans. You must raise the stakes. Speak your decision out loud. Tell people, declare it, make it real. Then put something on the line. time, money, reputation, comfort. When your energy has no alternative direction, it becomes unstoppable. It stops dripping in 100 places and becomes a flood toward your future. Picture it. A warrior steps onto the battlefield. Behind him, the bridge is burned, smoke rises, the flames are final. There is no way home except forward. No escape, no retreat. And in that moment, he is not paralyzed. He is liberated. He fights not with hesitation, but with absolute conviction. There is no what if, no maybe, only action, only resolve. That is what makes him dangerous. That is what makes him unbreakable, because he's not conserving strength for tomorrow. He's using everything today. That's what gives you the edge. That's what makes you dangerous. You become the man who is not negotiating with fear, not entertaining excuses, not saving strength for another day. You give all. You become all in. And in that space, you become something more. You become the kind of man who finishes what he starts, the kind who keeps his word to himself, the kind who doesn't fold under pressure, because there is no other option but through. So now, take a hard look at your life. What escape routes are you still clinging to? What quiet lies are you telling yourself that make it easier to pause, delay, retreat? What bridges are still standing behind you, tempting you with the comfort of familiarity? And then ask yourself, what if you cut them off today? What if you decided right now that the way back no longer exists? Would you rise or would you run? This is the question that defines men. Not their talent, not their upbringing, but their decision. The decision to commit fully. The decision to stand in the fire and say, I'm not leaving until I win, or I'm forged by the process. Burn the bridge. Walk forward. Make it real. And let the world feel the power of a man who has nothing left to lose because he's already decided to give it all. The world bows to the man with unshakable vision. Nothing commands life like a man with a clear vision. Not vague wishes, not half-formed ambitions, not the drifting dreams that flicker in and out depending on mood or mood swings, but a sharp, focused, definite picture of the life he is building. That kind of vision is a force. It makes the invisible visible. It gives shape to the formless. It makes the future real long before it arrives. A man with vision doesn't walk like other men. He doesn't respond like other men, because everything that happens to him, delay, rejection, pain, resistance, it all gets filtered through a singular lens. Where am I going? Vision turns waiting into patience, not frustration. It turns pain into fuel, not defeat. It turns rejection into redirection, not resentment. Because the man who sees clearly never panics when he's slowed. He knows exactly what he's building. He understands the arc of his own story. He sees how the temporary struggle fits inside the permanent outcome. And because of that, he can endure storms that would wreck lesser men. So why do most people wander? Why do they drift from one idea to another, chase one opportunity today and abandon it tomorrow? It's not because they're weak. It's because they never defined the destination. They never took the time to declare, this is who I am. This is what I'm building. This is where I'm going. And if you don't know where you're going, how can you know what matters today? How can you know which discomfort to tolerate, which habits to form, which battles to fight? The man with no vision says yes to everything and ends up with nothing. He confuses motion with progress. He exhausts himself trying to please, trying to prove, trying to chase things that don't even belong to his purpose. But the man with vision is different. He lives in alignment. He doesn't waste his energy explaining himself. He doesn't need validation for every move. His why is loud enough to drown out every distraction. When hardship hits, he doesn't ask, why me? He asks, what's next? Because he's not attached to comfort. He's attached to outcome. And when your vision is strong, every burden becomes bearable. Not because it's light, but because it's no noise, no opinions, just you and the truth. You go deep. You stop asking what you think you should want, and you start asking what you were born to do. Then you write it down, not just the numbers or the net worth, but how you feel in that life, how you walk into rooms, how you speak, how you lead, how you serve, what your days look like, what your evenings feel like, who you've become, not just what you've accumulated. And when it's written, revisit it daily. Let it become your North Star. When the world pulls at you with its demands, when failure stings, when fatigue creeps in, you return to the vision. You read it. You feel it. And suddenly the fog clears, the distractions fall away, because now you're not just reacting, you're creating. Your steps are no longer random, they are deliberate, they are aligned, they mean something. Picture this. You're building a cathedral. It's loud, it's dirty, it's thankless. To the people passing by, it looks like a pile of stones, a mess. They can't see what you see, but you do. You see the arches rising, the stained glass catching the morning light, the music that will echo through the high ceilings one day. You see it all before a single column is complete. And because you see it, every stone has purpose. Every cut, every hole, every drop of sweat is not lost. It's invested, because the structure already exists in your mind. That's what vision does. It gives meaning to labor. It gives dignity to repetition. It turns struggle into strategy. And one day, when the walls rise and the windows glow and the cathedral stands complete, others will call it brilliance, but you'll know the truth. It was vision, followed by discipline, followed by consistency, that made it happen. So now ask yourself, do you have a vision that makes the struggle worth it? Or are you drifting, carried by the urgency of everyone else's timeline? Are you working from a blueprint, or are you laying bricks in circles? Because if you don't define your future, the world will define it for you. It will fill your life with noise, obligations, distractions, and demands that have nothing to do with who you were meant to become. Define your vision, etch it in your mind, let it burn into your days, and then watch as the world adjusts. Watch how distractions lose their grip, how clarity finds you in moments of doubt, how opportunities begin to appear, not by chance, but by alignment. A man with a clear vision doesn't chase life. He commands it. Move in silence. Let your growth speak. There's a rare and quiet strength that lives in silence. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of hiding, but the silence that comes from self-trust. The kind of silence that doesn't need validation, doesn't beg for recognition, doesn't scream to be seen. The man who walks in silence isn't invisible, he's focused. He's doing the work, not to be noticed, but because he knows what he's building is real. His steps are deliberate, his decisions are private, he doesn't post every move, he doesn't explain every dream, he simply builds. And when the time is right, the results speak louder than his words ever could. Why is silent progress so powerful? Because it's protected. It starves doubt of its audience. It starves ego of its temptation. It removes the noise. Most men lose their strength not because they aren't capable, but because they talk too soon. They make declarations before making decisions. They announce grand plans they haven't committed to. They go public before they've gone deep. They want applause before they've earned sweat. And once the world knows, once the eyes are on them, they buckle. Because now the pressure is to perform, not to build. But the man who keeps his progress quiet builds something deeper, stronger. He removes the need to impress. He removes the distraction of opinions. He makes room for the only thing that truly matters: growth. Growth without spectators, growth without pressure, growth that happens in the dark, like roots digging deep beneath the surface. You don't see it, you don't hear it. But one day, a tree stands where there was only soil, and you realize it wasn't magic, it was quiet consistency. When you move in silence, you create space for patience. You give yourself time to fail, learn, adapt, without an audience waiting to judge. You escape the trap of performance, the burden of needing to look like you're winning while still figuring it out. You build muscle before posing. You grow roots before reaching. And when the harvest comes, it's undeniable. It doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need a pitch. The work, the result, it speaks. And when it does, the world listens. So how do you move this way? You begin by treating your vision like a sacred flame. You don't let everyone breathe on it. You guard it. You hold it close. You feed it quietly, consistently, without turning it into a performance. You tell yourself the truth. Not everyone needs to know. Not yet. Not until the foundation is strong. Not until the roots are deep. You share less, you do more. You stop proving, you start producing. Your goals stay in your chest, locked in with resolve. Your actions, your early mornings, your late nights, your decisions, your discipline, they become the proof. You don't need to say you're working. People can see it in your results. Picture this. 2 men wake up one day and decide to change their lives. One goes loud. He tells everyone. He makes announcements. He gets the dopamine hit from praise before he's done anything. He posts every workout, every journal, every big thing coming. The other says nothing. He writes down his goals. He sets his alarm. He gets up early. He works, he trains, he studies quietly every day. No performance, just preparation. Months pass. The loud one? He's moved on to something else. Another goal, another announcement, another hollow promise. The quiet one? He's transformed. His body's stronger. His habits are sharpened. His life is rising. And the world? Now they're asking the questions. How did he do it? Where did this come from? That's the power of quiet work. The spotlight finds you. Not because you chased it, but because you outlasted the noise. So now, ask yourself honestly, are you building for applause or legacy? If no one clapped for your progress, if no one congratulated your growth, would you still do the work? Would you still rise at 5 a.m.? Would you still read the book, make the call, hold the line, sharpen your edge? Or is your effort tied to being seen? Because here's the truth, the world is full of noise, and most of it is hollow. Echoes of people who want the rewards without the roots. But legacy? That's carved in silence, brick by brick, day by day. The loudest man in the room is often the one with the least to show. He needs to shout because his work does, but the man who builds quietly, when he walks in, the room changes. Not because he demanded it, but because his presence carries weight. You feel it in his posture, in his discipline, in his results. He doesn't need to explain himself. His life is the explanation. Be that man. The one who builds in silence, who sharpens without audience, who rises without applause. And one day, when the world finally turns its head, it won't be because you begged for their attention. It'll be because your work commanded it. Without a word, you must master the inner war first. The true battle is not out there. It never was. The real war is waged within, in the silence of your own mind. It begins before the first decision is made, before your feet touch the floor, before a single word is spoken. It's the quiet tension between who you are and who you could be. Every man feels it, the hesitation before action, the doubt before commitment, the fear dressed up as logic. Before you conquer any mountain, you must first conquer your own hesitation. Before you lead anyone else, you must lead your own mind. This is the battleground that determines the rest, and yet most never fight it. They look outward. They chase victories in status, wealth, appearance, but ignore the enemy that lives between their ears. They win applause but remain insecure. They gain influence but feel hollow. Why? Because if you don't master your inner world, no external success will last. The enemy within will sabotage every breakthrough. It will whisper doubt into every achievement. It will drag you back into the very patterns you promised yourself you'd never repeat. You'll keep building castles only to watch them crumble under the weight of your own untrained thoughts. You must ask yourself one thing, and answer honestly. Are you the commander of your mind or its prisoner? Because make no mistake, your mind will be ruled, either by discipline or by default, either by intention or by impulse. There is no neutral ground. Every day you are either training your mind or being trained by it. You are either shaping it or being shaped by the fears, the lies, the laziness it throws at you. What does mastery look like? It doesn't mean the absence of doubt. It means dominion over it. It means recognizing that not every thought is true, that not every emotion deserves your attention. It means interrupting the fear the moment it speaks, catching the lie mid-sentence, redirecting your focus away from weakness and into action. Mastery is not bravado, it's self-command. It's the man who sees the chaos rise inside him, but chooses to breathe, to speak strength to himself, to move forward anyway. It's when your will becomes stronger than your noise. And how do you build that kind of strength? It begins with awareness. You must start by observing your thoughts, not blindly obeying them. Every morning, before the world claims your attention, you sit with your mind, not to listen passively, but to inspect. Write down what's circling your head. Look at it with honesty. What's useful? What's fear? What's fiction pretending to be fact? You take the thoughts captive. You challenge them. You learn to say, that's not truth, and I don't have to follow it. And then you act against the ones that try to limit you. You build habits that anchor your inner world. Reading the words of warriors, journaling with intention, praying with focus, planning with clarity. You do not let your mind wander into weakness. You clean your mental battlefield every day, sharpening your tools before the war begins. Imagine this. A man wakes up with a weight on his chest. He hasn't even moved, and already his thoughts are scattered. You're behind. You're not ready. Why try again? Fear steps up to lead. But this man, he doesn't just let it take the reins. He pauses. He breathes. He doesn't complain. He reaches for something strong, maybe a book, a journal, a prayer. He reads. He reminds himself, "This is my day." He speaks with authority, not to others but to himself. And when he steps into the world, he walks like a man governed by conviction, not chaos. That's the difference. That's what separates strength from weakness. Because when fear rises, one man pauses but still steps forward. The other freezes, folds, or flees. One man chooses action in the face of uncertainty. The other lets uncertainty choose his steps for him. That is the real battle. Not whether you feel fear, but whether it commands you. The strong man responds. The weak man reacts. And your entire life will pivot around which of those two you become. So now take a hard look inward. Who is in control when the thoughts rise, when pressure hits, when plans fail? Do you fall into panic? Do you let the storm of your mind pull you under? Or do you rise, breathe, and take command? Because that's where greatness begins. Not in talent, not in appearance, but in mastery of the invisible war that most men never even try to fight. Win this war, and every other victory will feel like alignment, not accident. Lose this war, and no matter how high you climb, you will feel the weight of sabotage from within. So the question stands, when the voices rise, when the fear speaks, when the pressure tightens, who leads? You or the noise? Only one answer will change your life, and it begins the moment you decide to stop reacting and start ruling. Become immune to approval. Act from within. The man who depends on constant praise will never build anything real. He might appear confident, he might make noise, he might even rise quickly, but what he's building is hollow, fragile, because his foundation isn't purpose, it's approval. And when approval is your fuel, criticism becomes poison. When you rely on applause to move forward, the first whisper of disapproval becomes a chain. You hesitate, you shrink, you doubt yourself, not because your vision is flawed, but because someone else doesn't understand it. That is the danger of building your life on external validation. It makes you reactive, not resilient. But when a man's fuel is purpose, he becomes untouchable. Not arrogant, anchored, his strength doesn't rise and fall with the opinions of others. He doesn't crumble under gossip or glow only in praise. He knows who he is. He knows where he's going. And because of that, no outside voice, whether applause or attack, can shake him. He acts not to be seen, but because he believes. He moves not to impress, but because he's convicted. And that kind of man is rare. That kind of man is dangerous to fear, to conformity, to mediocrity. So why do so many become addicted to approval? Because they were never taught how to validate themselves. They grew up measuring their worth by others' reactions. A smile, a compliment, a nod of approval. Slowly, their compass turned outward. They stopped asking, "What do I value?" and started asking, "Do they like me?" And with that shift, their power slipped away. Their decisions became softer, safer, more strategic, not to win, but to please. But growth, the kind that transforms you, never comes from consensus. It comes from conviction. Real growth begins when you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Am I becoming who I'm meant to be?" That shift is everything. It returns the authority to where it belongs, within. It frees you from the prison of performance. It gives you the courage to act even when the crowd is silent, or worse, hostile. Because not everyone will see your vision, not everyone will cheer your growth. Some will laugh at it. Some will try to shrink you back into the version of you that made them comfortable. But if you belong to their opinions, you will never belong to yourself. That's the test. Not how loudly you can speak your truth, but how quietly you can keep walking when no one claps, when your name is left out, when your work is ignored, when your path is mocked. Do you still walk? Do you still build? Do you still rise? Because you know the value of what you're creating. Or do you bend, adjust, retreat, just to be liked? To become immune to the addiction of approval, you must build inner standards. You must define your worth by effort, not applause, by integrity, not attention, by values, not volume. You become your own scorekeeper, whether you lived your truth, whether you moved one step closer to the man you're trying to become. Each morning, the world will offer you two paths, one of applause and one of alignment. One path flatters you but steals your power. The other tests you but strengthens you. Choose the harder path, the quieter one, the one where the reward isn't approval but progress. And how do you know you're on the right path? You look inward. Each night, ask yourself, did I move forward today? Not did I get noticed, not did they like it, but did I show up? Did I act with courage? Did I stay true to the man I said I wanted to be? If the answer is yes, you've already won. whether anyone saw it or not, whether anyone clapped or not. Because your life is no longer a performance, it's a mission. Picture this. A man starts a business. His friends don't understand. They tease. They warn. His family questions him. They worry. They suggest safer options. But he keeps going. Not with arrogance, but with resolve. He listens, but he's not swayed, because he's not doing it for applause. He's doing it because something inside him knows, this is mine to do. And that belief, that quiet fire, is enough. That belief carries him when the room is empty, when the profits are low, when the support disappears. That belief turns him into something others can't shake. So ask yourself, are you owned by the opinions of others? Do you need the echo of approval to keep going? Or do you stand on your own values, acting as if nothing can sway you? Not flattery, not gossip, not fear, because at the end of the day, the man who acts from conviction outlasts the man who performs for applause. The one who moves from purpose outbuilds the one who dances for praise. And when the noise dies down, when the crowd moves on, only one of them still stands, unshaken, undefeated, free. Be that man. Stop chasing, start becoming. Most men sprint through life with their eyes fixed on a distant prize, chasing approval, status, validation, or some elusive version of success. They run fast, they grind hard, they burn out, and they wonder why the finish line always moves further away. What they don't realize is this: you don't get what you chase, you get what you become. Success isn't something you catch, it's something you attract. And the man who attracts success is not the one desperate for recognition, it's the one who already embodies the value others seek. But chasing is seductive. It feels active. It feels like progress. It convinces you that motion equals momentum, that being busy is the same as being effective. It's easier to run toward a reward than it is to stop and ask, am I becoming the kind of man who can handle this? Chasing lets you avoid that question. Building character requires stillness, reflection, sacrifice. But chasing just asks for speed. That's why so many people keep running in circles. They chase love without learning how to give it. They chase leadership without mastering self-discipline. They chase wealth without understanding responsibility. And so, even when they catch the thing they're after, they can't hold it. It slips through their hands because they never became the kind of person who could carry it. Becoming is different. Becoming is quiet. Becoming doesn't demand applause. It's not glamorous. It happens in the early mornings, in the uncomfortable moments, in the small invisible victories that no one sees. But becoming lasts because it's not based on luck or hype. It's rooted in transformation. It's not about getting what you want. It's about aligning with it. When you become the man who deserves it, the outcome arrives as a natural consequence, not as a lucky break. So what must you do if you want to stop chasing and start building? You shift your focus. You stop obsessing over the external rewards and start asking the deeper question, who do I need to become? You want wealth? Don't chase money. Become disciplined, train your habits, master your time, develop restraint, because the man who lives below his means, shows up on time, and adds value consistently is the man wealth gravitates toward. You want respect? Don't demand it. Become worthy of it. Be consistent. Keep your word. Show up when it's hard. Respect follows those who live with integrity. You want peace? Don't wait for the chaos to end. Become grounded. Learn to be still. Strengthen your inner world so no storm can move you. That's how you attract the life you want. Not through begging, but through becoming. And how do you begin this process? You make it daily, practical, grounded. You stop asking what you want and start asking what the man you admire does. What are his habits? How does he speak? How does he carry himself under pressure? Then you live those answers, not when life gets easier, not when motivation is high. Today, you make your habits reflect your future self. Your actions aren't about chasing an image, they're about building an identity. Imagine a man who wants to be trusted. He could chase it, try to please everyone, flatter them, work overtime to gain their approval. Or he could become trustworthy. Speak truth, do what he says he'll do, stay consistent. Keep quiet when gossip rises. Lead by example. At first, people might not notice, but over time, they feel it. Trust begins to follow him, not because he chased it, but because he became the kind of man who carries it naturally. It clings to him like a shadow, because it belongs to him. This is the choice you face every day. Chase the image of success, or become the kind of man who attracts it without trying. The first feels exciting, but leads to burnout. The second feels slow, but leads to legacy. The first depends on how others respond. The second depends only on how you live. And the truth is, most won't choose the second path. It's quieter, it takes longer, it doesn't give immediate rewards, but it gives real ones, lasting ones. The kind of success that isn't stolen by the economy, the critics, or the passage of time. Because it's not external, it's who you are. So ask yourself, are you chasing a dream you haven't earned yet? Or are you becoming the man who can carry it with grace? And are you sprinting for approval or walking forward in purpose? The difference is everything. One path builds image, the other builds substance. When you stop chasing, the world stops running from you, it begins to respond. Not because you begged for it, but because you became ready. That's the quiet, powerful truth. Success doesn't come to the man who wants it most. It comes to the man who matches it, the one who becomes it from the inside out. Let that be you. The man who endures wins when the excitement fades, when the applause dies down, when the quick wins vanish and you're left alone with the grind. That is when most men quit. They mistake the absence of noise for the absence of meaning. They assume that if no one is watching, it no longer matters. So they stop, they retreat, they let go of what they once claimed was important. But not you. You must endure, because the man who endures when others fold, the man who keeps walking when the path grows steep, when the air grows thin, when the voices disappear, is the man who claims the prize. Not the man who starts loud, but the one who finishes, quietly, powerfully, on his own 2 feet. Endurance is rare because its reward is not immediate. It doesn't offer instant validation. It doesn't feed your ego the way quick success does. It demands something deeper, patience. In a world addicted to speed, the man who moves slowly but deliberately becomes a stranger. He's misunderstood, overlooked. But make no mistake, time is his ally. And while others burn bright and fade, the one who endures burns steady, long, and in the end, he outlasts them all. Endurance isn't just about survival. It's not about dragging yourself through the mud, barely holding on. True endurance is excellence maintained over time. It's continuing to give your best, not when you're inspired, but when you're tired. It's staying sharp even when no one's watching. It's refusing to lower your standards, even when you could get away with it. That's the quiet discipline that separates the temporary from the timeless. Because anyone can give effort when it's easy. But when the emotions fade, when the spark is gone, when the crowd has moved on, who are you then? You build endurance not by waiting for perfect days, but by embracing the imperfect ones. You show up, you do the work, again and again and again. You learn to find rhythm in repetition, strength in silence, clarity in routine. You create anchors, habits that hold you steady when everything else shifts. You tie yourself to your mission, your values, your reasons, not your mood, because your mission is bigger than your motivation. And when your emotions are gone, those anchors will carry you. Imagine this. You're halfway up a brutal hill. Your legs are screaming. Your breath is shallow. You're drenched in effort. You look back and see how far you've come. It's impressive, but you look forward and realize it's not over. There's still more to climb. You could stop. You could say, good enough. But something in you refuses. You plant your foot. You take another step, then another. No fanfare, no applause, just movement. Forward, quiet, focused. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you stand at the summit. Maybe you're alone. Maybe there's no one to see it. But you're there, victorious. Not because you never struggled, but because you never stopped. That's the power of endurance. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't rely on emotion. It lives in your bones. It grows with every hard decision, every lonely step, every time you act, not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. The man who endures earns something no shortcut can buy: substance, depth, weight, a kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken, because it was built when no one was watching. So ask yourself, what do you do when it gets hard? Do you fold when the feelings fade? Do you abandon your goals when they become inconvenient? Or do you press on, knowing that storms don't last, but the reward of endurance does? Most men only commit until it's no longer exciting. But the one who keeps going, when the light dims, when the days blur, when the voice in his head says quit, he is building something rare, something lasting. And one day, when the race is done and the dust settles, his name stands. Because endurance is not about talent, it's not about luck, it's about resolve. It's about continuing to walk when your legs don't want to, about speaking truth when your voice trembles, about choosing consistency over chaos. It's the quiet choice to finish what you started, even when no one claps for you along the way. So who will you be when the feeling fades? When the road stretches longer than you expected? Will you join the crowd that turns back, or will you keep moving, not because it's easy, but because you decided? Remember this, excitement is temporary, applause is fleeting, but endurance builds empires. And the man who possesses it doesn't just finish the race, he becomes the standard. Win the morning, win the man. Every day begins with a test, a quiet one. There's no judge, no alarm shouting its importance, no audience watching to score your performance. But it's there, before the noise of the world begins, before texts arrive, before the sun even stretches across the sky. It's the test of intention. The moment you open your eyes, the question is whispered. Will you command this day, or will you drift through it? Because whether you rise with purpose or stumble with hesitation, you've already cast a vote for the kind of man you're becoming. And the man who wins the morning, he doesn't just win time, he wins himself. Why does the morning matter so much? Because it's the gate, the doorway to everything that follows. It's the moment where you either take control of your energy or let the world take it from you. But when you begin with intention, when you choose stillness before speed, presence before pressure, you become the architect of your life, not the passenger of your circumstances. Your morning is a mirror. It reflects the discipline, clarity, and values that will follow you into every meeting, every decision, every conversation. If you let it be sloppy, if you begin with chaos, if your first act is to complain or delay, what does that say about the life you're building? Your morning tells your mind who's in charge. And if you don't assert your authority early, the world will gladly fill that vacancy. This is not about perfection. It's not about performing some grand ritual for the sake of feeling productive. It's about reverence, about claiming the first hour as sacred. The morning must be simple, sacred, and sharp. You rise not because you're forced to, but because you own the day. That's the difference between the man who leads and the man who lags. You don't begin your day by reacting. You begin by creating. What does that look like? It starts in silence. Before you speak to anyone else, speak to yourself. Declare who you are. Not who the world says you are, not who your doubts whisper you might be, but who you've decided to become. That declaration sets the tone. Then you read. Something timeless, something deep, something strong. Not news, not gossip, not noise. Something that calls your spirit up to its higher standard. You move your body, not to impress, but to awaken, to remind yourself that you're alive and capable. Then you sit in stillness, breathe, align your mind with your mission, and then, only then, you begin your day. This is not a luxury, it's a necessity, because the world will test you. People will try you. Problems will hunt for weakness. And if you enter the arena without sharpening your sword, without steadying your stance, without commanding your own thoughts, you will lose. Not because you aren't strong, but because you weren't ready. Now picture this, two men. One rolls out of bed at the last minute, eyes bleary, already buried in anxiety. His feet move, but his mind is scattered. The day pushes him, pulls him, owns him. He's reacting to everything, never creating anything. The other man wakes with calm resolve. He moves with rhythm. He speaks to himself before the world speaks to him. He nourishes his mind. He connects with his mission. And then he walks out, not rushed, not distracted, but anchored. That man doesn't chase the day, he commands it. Ask yourself, if your mornings are disordered, distracted, and weak, what message are you sending to your future? Every morning is a vote, a declaration, a signal to your future self saying, yes, I'm ready, I'm building something real, or no, I'm still hiding, I'm still drifting. There is no middle ground. You are either choosing mastery or you're surrendering to mediocrity. And if you think it doesn't matter, look closely at the men who rise with power. Look at the ones who seem to carry something different in their walk, in their words, in their work. It's not just genetics or luck, it's intention. It's the unseen hours. It's how they show up before anyone else is watching. This is your invitation, not to some hype-driven routine, but to sacred discipline. Not to prove yourself, but to build yourself. Because how you begin the day shapes how you meet its challenges, how you meet pressure, how you meet opportunity, and ultimately how you meet your own potential. Win your mornings, and you'll win more than time. You'll win the man you were meant to be. Every day you have the chance to rise, not just from sleep, but from average. Choose it. Stand in it. Live like the first hour matters, because it does, more than anything. The world belongs to the man who refuses to quit, There's one quality that separates the man who merely watches life unfold from the man who bends it to his will. Refusal. The refusal to quit. The refusal to bend under pressure. The refusal to surrender a vision. No matter how long the road, no matter how steep the climb, no matter how loud the voices urging him to stop. This refusal is not born from arrogance or delusion. It's born from conviction. A silent vow whispered in the dark. I will not stop, not here, not now, not ever. And this matters more than most men realize, because anything worth having, anything that carries weight, meaning, legacy, will demand more from you than you think you can give. It will not arrive quickly. It will not greet you with ease. The dream will test you. It will delay itself. It will bruise your ego. It will ask if you're serious. And when the pressure increases, when the failures pile up, most will fold. They'll say it's not meant to be. They'll call it fate, timing, or bad luck. But those are just polished names for quitting. The truth is simpler. They gave up. But not the man who refuses. He knows better. He understands that destiny is not gifted, it is earned. And only the stubborn will own it, not the loudest, not the most talented, not the one with the cleanest plan, but the one who keeps getting up, the one who rebuilds what crumbles, the one who doesn't retreat when the storm rolls in, but leans into it with steady eyes. That man is not lucky. He is relentless. He is the one who acts as if nothing can stop him, not because he hasn't been hit, but because he's been hit and still stands. Failure doesn't shake him, it shapes him. Setbacks don't slow him, they sharpen him. He doesn't need comfort, and he doesn't beg for reassurance. His path is paved in repetition, not inspiration. He keeps going because he made a sacred vow to himself. I do not stop. But how do you build this kind of steel? How do you become the man who does not break? You start by remembering what's at stake. Not the surface rewards, not the trophies or the applause, but the man you're building. Every day you choose to endure, you reinforce that man. Every day you quit, you weaken him. Strength and weakness are not moods, they are habits, and every choice you make is a rep. When others rest, you repeat. When others doubt, you do. When the excuses appear, you confront them with your record, your own proof. Keep a log of your effort. Track the nights you stayed in the fight. Look at it when you want to walk away. Let it shame your hesitation. Let it remind you, you've come too far to quit now. Imagine a builder. He lays stone after stone, day after day. Then a storm comes, fierce and unforgiving. It washes away his work. The structure collapses. Most men would curse the sky. They'd say it's a sign. They'd walk away and call it wisdom. But not this man. He returns the next morning, quiet, focused. He lays the first stone again. The rain may return, the storm may test him again, but so be it. He lays the stone again. Over time, the ground begins to change. It remembers him. The stones begin to lock. The foundation deepens. The structure begins to stand. Not because the storm stopped, but because the builder never did. This is the secret no one wants to hear. Most men stop just before the breakthrough. They put in months, sometimes years, and then quit, one step shy of the moment everything would have changed. They'll never know how close they were, and they'll spend the rest of their lives wondering if it was possible. That's a different kind of pain, the kind that follows you, the kind that whispers in quiet hours, what if you had just held on a little longer? So now ask yourself, what have you abandoned too soon? What vision, what path, what promise did you drop when it got heavy? And what if you were just one more day from the turn? Wouldn't you rather be the man who endured, the one who stood when others scattered, who laid the stone again, who outlasted the storm, than the one who looks back and wonders? Your life will not be measured by how easy it looked. It will be measured by how much you refused to break. Let others chase comfort. Let others fold. But you must become the man who endures, who outlasts failure, who builds through doubt, who keeps rising, not because it's easy, but because he refuses to do anything else. And that refusal, that is where strength lives. That is where greatness begins. The world won't hand you power. You must claim it. When you act as if nothing stops you, the world begins to shift. Doors open, fear fades, and the impossible starts to bend. Don't wait for courage. Move first, and courage will follow. Every action you take with conviction builds the life you were meant to live. So from this moment on, walk like it's yours, speak like you mean it, and never forget, nothing can stop the one who refuses to stop.